Good morning everyone, this is George Beiruthi giving you the overnight report for Monday morning the 8th of September. First of all, who we are. We're a stockbroking firm located on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, and I intend to give you a bit more information about our company later in this presentation. Let me start with the disclaimer. Everything I say here is just for general advice and general information only. Before you take any action, please consult with your professional advisor or talk to us directly. A copy of this disclaimer is available to you should you wish to receive it. All you have to do is call the office. Today, as usual, we start with our market report editorial. We have various editorials and education, and today we start a new series on iron ore. You know that iron ore is important for our miners such as BHP, Rio, Atlas Iron and Fortescue, and we've seen the price of iron ore declining, so we've decided to write a little bit more about the iron ore, and this will probably be a 2 or 3 part series. And by the way, we finished an extensive editorial strike education on options. We had 13 part series on options, how to trade options and everything you need to know. Before that, we finished a long series on futures contract. And should you wish to receive or at least review these education editorials, all you have to do is go to the website, and if you're not a member, all you have to do is try our 15 free day trial and surf the full content of our website. We're going to start with giving you some data. As you can see on the screen, the Dow Jones was up 0.4% on Saturday morning, our time, and the S&P 500 reached an all-time high of 2007. In Europe, the Stockmarket 50, which is an index that comprises several major European markets, was actually flat, hardly moved. It was down less than 0.1%, nearly 2 points, and closed at 3,275. The FTSE 100 closed down 0.3% on Friday and finished at 6,855. Going down in Asia, we have the Nikkei index was actually also flat. The Hang Seng was down 0.2%, and in China the Shanghai index was up nearly 1%. Gold on the weekend finished at 1,268. That's actually up $7, and that's up 0.6%. Silver was at $19.22, is up 8 cents, and copper, the world's economic barometer, was at 317.1 that cents per pound, and that is up 2 cents overnight. Now, you don't see the price of iron ore. However, let me tell you that iron ore slumped another 1.6% and finished around 93.6 US a ton, and that is, by the way, the lowest level in 6 years, and that is nearly 40% decline since January the 1st, 2014. We show you the various soft commodities from wheat, soybeans, cocoa, corn, coffee, live cattle, and so on. So if you're trading commodities, at least you have an update every day. We also show you the currencies, the Australian dollar versus the US, the euro versus the US, and of course the Australian dollar versus the euro, and other currencies as well, the Japanese yen and the British pound. We like to show you the various announcements that can have a major effect on our market, and we have the ANZ data job advertisement at 11:30 today that really shows you a bit of how the sentiment in the corporate world, and that of course may have some effect on the market. Tonight in the US we have actually very little information coming from the US tonight. At 10:45 we have the Treasury Secretary Liu will speak. It will be interesting to hear what he has to say. And consumer credit, that will be tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. That's the month-on-month consumer credit that will show you whether people are borrowing money and starting to get involved in business. Our analyst here at FS Securities, every so often, almost nearly 3-4 times a week, puts the FS Security picks, and also we show you our trades. Of course, this is only a summary. If you want more details of any of those companies, you need to go to the website, and as I said earlier, if you're not a member, you can actually register and have full access to the website on a 15-day free trial. We'd like to show you the volume over the last 15 days. You can see that over the last 5 days the volume has been increasing from below 1.9 billion transactions per day to nearly 2.5. With 2.5, it's really almost one of the highest, actually either the highest or the second highest within the last 15 days. So volume was really great. However, you need to take into consideration what happened to the ratio of advances versus declines. Well, on Friday we've had 45% of all the trades were actually in declines versus 29% were in the advancing side, and 26% were unchanged. So the volume was much higher over the last 5 days. However, it was more or less a sell-off day, and we believe that this table and the chart is important for you to understand the trend in the market. Then we like to scan the market and show you which company has produced better results on Friday. We have a company called Prana Biotechnology, was up 35% on Friday from 8.5, actually went up 8.5 cents and finished at 33 cents. And you have a list of companies. If you have any interest in any of those companies, please talk to us directly. We also like to show you the company with high volume. Telstra and Fortescue for the last several days have been the top 2 companies in volume. Telstra had 23 million shares exchanging hands on Friday. It was down 0.5% or 3 cents, down to $5.64 after reaching a high during the week of $5.72. Fortescue continues to go down, and you understand why, because the iron ore price continues to slump. It was down further 3% and was down below $4 for the first time in many weeks. Alright, now we also like to give you a snapshot of the 10 companies that went up versus the 10 companies that went down amongst the top 200. Northern Star was down nearly 10% on Friday. Evolution Mining and Regis Resources, which is a gold producing company, and Mesoplast, which actually had a very good result during the week, started to decline. We've seen 5% decline in Mesoplast and a further 5% the day before. BC Iron and Mount Gibson and Fortescue, as I mentioned, all companies that produce iron ore. And you know that some of those companies, the cost of production is now almost very close to the market price, so they will probably find it very difficult to make any profit as long as the price stays where it is at the moment. Luckily for BHP and Rio, by the way, is the lowest producer in terms of cost of iron ore. I think from memory it's about $44 a ton, and BHP is slightly more expensive than that, but still very competitively positioned in the market. Whether we're going to see the big companies buying the small companies in the next few months, that would be an interesting speculation, of course. Alright, so we like to show you the sectors, which sector has performed better than other sectors. The utilities actually was the only sector, according to what you see on the screen right now, that was up on Friday, and it finished on the high as well. The column that you see here in blue, it really shows that of the range from low to high on Friday, utilities sector actually finished on the top end, which is at the top 90% of the range. Now, in terms of all the other sectors, they're all red. They're telling you that they are all on the declining side. Look, going down the list, the worst performing sector was the gold, and you can understand why, because gold was down. it was down 4.1%. So straight away we know that Newcrest Mines has actually went down on Friday. Going down the list and trying to pick up those sectors that have performed bad but not as bad as gold. We've got here the healthcare, 1.4% down. CSL, which has been a best performing company, 17% rise over the last 3 weeks, started to decline, and it was down by 1.5% on Friday. And the sector, of course, was affected. Now going down that list, we have the metals. You can understand why, because of the iron ore prices. So again, this table is updated every day, so you can actually have a gauge on the various sectors that are doing well versus the sectors that are not doing so well. On the weekend, we also like to give you a 2-week projection about what happened to the US stocks, to the exchange rate, and also to various commodities. For instance, if we go down in the middle here, the first 2 blue columns that you can see here happen to be the change over 1 week, and next to it we have a much bigger spectrum in time, and that's a 2-week range. For instance, we look at the Dow Jones, it fell 0.2% over last week. Taking a bigger spectrum in time, we can see that over the last 2 weeks it was down by 0.8%. Sorry, I apologize, it's actually gone up by 0.8% over 2 weeks and went up by 0.2%. If it's blue, it means it's gone up. If it's red, it means it's gone down. So the American market overall has actually gone up the last couple of weeks. The best performing index was actually the S&P 500, and you heard me saying that it got up to 2007, which is an all-time high. Now, in terms of the Australian dollar, was reasonably strong, 0.7% higher over the last 2 weeks. And the US dollar, you can understand when the US dollar goes up, most commodities go down. And over the last 2 weeks, the US dollar was up by nearly 1.8%. So that's a major rise for a currency. And obviously what's been affected is that the euro has weakened quite a bit in the last couple of weeks because of various issues they have in Europe. The deflation is actually the major concern now in Europe. In terms of commodities, I just mentioned that the US dollar was stronger, so you expect all commodities would be down, and that's exactly what you see. It's mostly red. The worst commodity going down that list is natural gas, was down nearly 7% over the last week. However, if you look at the full 2 weeks, it only was down by less than 1%. So obviously 2 weeks ago the natural gas price may have actually gone up. You may think that the Ukraine issue may have had an effect on the positive side 2 weeks ago, and maybe a negative side last week, which should be interesting because, as we understand it, the Ukraine and Russia had a ceasefire deal agreement, even though it's not pursued completely at the moment, but at least that should have been a good sign as far as natural gas. And that's what we see. The natural gas has gone down by nearly 7% over the last week. Now going that list, we see that corn was down nearly 2.5%, and further over the last 2 weeks we see that corn was down nearly 4% over the last 2 weeks. Coffee and orange juice and light crude oil were the three, and live cattle as well, were actually the best performing commodities. Alright, we move on to the local scene. On the left hand side we see the sectors, how the sectors have performed. Over last week the only positive sectors were actually telecommunication and consumer staples, followed by energy. On the negative side, the declining side, The worst performing sector was actually gold, 7.6%, and you cross to the other side and you see that Newcrest was down 6.5% last week. So that's the reason why the sector was down. Materials was down 2.6%. You go and besides, yeah, you got the metal and mining and the material, two sectors that went down by nearly between 2.6 and 3%. You go across the other side and you will see that BHP was down 2.8%. Over the last 2 weeks it was down 5.7%. Rio down 2% over last week and 6.3% over the last 2 weeks. So again, we show you a lot of data that can help you to formulate a good strategy by understanding which market is moving up versus which market is moving down, in terms of sector, in terms of commodities, in terms of stocks. Finally, to finish off, we like to show you the X-date. The X-date are the stocks that are giving you the right to get the dividends on those dates if you own any of those shares. For instance, if you are a shareholder of Insurance Australia Group, which is the old NRMA, you would know that today it's X date. This company will give you 26 cents, a yield of approximately 6%, and if you are looking after your own super and perhaps you're not paying any tax if under the super, it is franked 100%. So the 0.26 cents, the 26 cents, will obviously give you a bit more because of the 100% franking. Going down the list, CSL will actually give the dividend today 65 cents. So we expect the price of CSL to drop by 65 cents at least today. And looking at the yield, it's not a very good yield. It's only 1.7%. That's, by the way, that's the yield per annum. Vida Group, we have some clients who trade Vida Group. Today they get 4 cents, which is about 1.7%, and so on. And this table is updated every week. We give you the date here. It's sorted by dates, and the next one we give you by yield, so you can see which company offers you better yield. New Zealand Oil and Gas at the moment is the best, provides the best yield of 7%, followed by RCG Corporation, another 7%, Hunters Hall, this is a fund company listed, and you've got the rest of the list on the screen. Now to finish off, who I am. My name is George Beiruthi. I am the director here at FS Securities. As you can see, I have a lot of years of trading and investment experience and several qualifications to support what I offer my clients. My ambition today is to help our clients and prospective clients to become effective investors and traders. So who we are a stockbroking firm here on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. We are fully licensed. We trade shares, options, commodities, CFDs and foreign exchange, and offer our clients a very attractive investment at 7% over 1 year, interest paid monthly, or 9% over 3 years, interest paid monthly. Also, we are financial planners and cater for all your financial needs. How to reach us? Here. Well, first of all, we start with our landline, 61 for Australia, 7 for Queensland, 5630-4141. That's our landline number. Alternatively, you can call my mobile. I'm available to be reached 7 days a week when I'm available, which means if I'm not playing bridge, I'm not playing tennis, I'm not dining out, I'm not at the movies. You see, I've got a life as well beside making sure that my clients make money. Alternatively, you can write to me at george@fssecurities.com.au, or you can actually visit our website and join us on a 15-day free trial to surf right through the website to see all our daily recommendations, daily scans, our current trading positions, and we show you our results and trading stocks. You'll also see our tutorials, education webinars, daily editorials, and many charts and a lot of information. Why don't you then register now for the 15-day free trial? Okay, that's all from us here at FS Securities. Remember to trade safely and wisely, and I'll be back again at 1:15 this afternoon to tell you what happened during the morning, and of course this will be recorded and placed on the website. And have a nice day and happy trading.